Hi guys, welcome back to the Gillian Kane Connection podcast. I'm your host, Gillian Kane. I'm an intuitive energy healer, past life regression therapist, and psychic development coach. And on my show, we talk about everything from spirituality, sexuality, conscious relationships, soul-led business, and literally everything in between. So if that's your jam, then stay tuned. So on this episode, we are going to discuss past lives and my journey with past lives, how I even discovered it, how I got into becoming a regression therapist, and how it can be so beneficial within your life as a healing modality, as a way to connect to your spiritual growth, as a way to understand your relationships and to discover your soul purpose. Because it really has been a therapy and a modality that has done all of those things for me, quite honestly. And it's something that I use and I delve into all the time for clarity. So for those of you that don't know what past lives are, I believe anyway, that we are a soul. We're a multidimensional soul and we reincarnate in different lifetimes. And that isn't just Earth, but that's another episode altogether. But we have reincarnated in different lifetimes in order to expand, in order to understand the human condition in all of its forms, in all of its guises, the good, the bad, the ugly. As a soul, we really wanted to learn duality, and sometimes that means coming to Earth and experiencing things that as a human we would see as negative, but then on the flip side we might experience something that is the complete opposite of that, because we really, at a soul level, wanted to understand the whole component of having this experience as a human here on Earth. And again, for those of us that have had lifetimes on other planets and other star systems, it again very similar, because we are really looking at the multidimensionality of the soul. So yes, that is a different episode, and I will talk about that. For anyone that's interested, let me know about our galactic origins, because it's absolutely fascinating as well. So as per episode 1, I filled you guys in about when I was a kid, I had a real penchant for old items, old antiques, or things that were rich in history. And I used to, as a kid, go to my grandparents' house and run up the stairs to their bedroom and literally touch everything, like pick things up. I would get a feeling from a lot of the old items that they would have in their house. And my granddad was in the war, so he had a lot of, war memorabilia and stuff like that. And again, at the time, I didn't know that I was receiving psychic information through these items. Like, I was feeling them and picking up feelings and residues and emotions from these particular objects, because I was a very intuitive kid. And even in school, I loved history. I studied history. I was just fascinated with, the human psyche, of course, and just the different periods of history and how societies were and how they interacted. And, again, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I was interested in the advancements that each era and society would have, but also, very interested in like the deprivation and the things that could have been done better, and the dark side of each era in history. So I always had a fascination for all of these things, as I do now. So no wonder that I do this for a living. But yeah, that all started at a very young age. So that was, I guess, my understanding, or just penchant for history and old things, and knowing and feeling the energetics of history, and the energetics of things and residues that could be carried on throughout time. And ultimately, I'd probably say the first experience that I remember of really being introduced to past lives was when I was at psychic at a psychic school. So I studied at a psychic school. I did a whole psychic development program there for about 2 years in London. And one class, again, I mentioned this in the first episode, but I'll reiterate it very quickly now. But in one class, after class was finished, we were all getting up and about to leave. And I walked up to my teacher, and it felt like there was just a blast of fire in between us as I walked up to her. I looked at her, I was a bit shocked. She looked at me. There was just a part of me that knew, and it's like I felt and I saw in my mind's eye that I had been burned, that I knew it was me, but it wasn't me in my current form. And I just had this knowing that I had been burnt as a witch. And again, I honestly had no experience of past lives. I hadn't really read anything about past lives, but I just had this internal knowing. And obviously at that point, I had opened up my psychic gifts. I was channeling, I was doing readings. So, I had activated these parts of myself. And when I asked my teacher at the time, like, oh my God, did you feel that? What was that? And she confirmed, look, this was a past life that's coming up to show itself to you where you were burned as a witch. And I was like, I just knew, I just had this feeling in my body. And I'm like, I knew that was correct. And I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what I felt. But I also felt strange in saying that to you. So that was my first experience of experiencing a past life, really. And then through my psychic school, I met a past life regression therapist called Jay. Shout out to Jay, who's still in London. And we just hit it off straight away. And I actually started I booked in a session with him. So I was like, look, this has come up for a reason. 2 weeks later, I met him because he was teaching something at the school. I'm like, look, it's destiny. It's fate. I have to go book a session with you. And at the time, I had just gone through a breakup. So there was still a lot of emotional residue there. I was also having some challenging dynamics with one of my best friends, and I was just in a place where I guess I just wanted to explore what was actually going on. And I honestly didn't know the levels of healing and the levels of therapy that could be achieved through past life regression until I did some sessions. And honestly, the first session was intense. I don't want to scare you. Like, because there's nothing to be scared of. And I think this is something I want to iterate. You're accessing past life memories, but you aren't experiencing the trauma that you went through. You're experiencing if there's emotion there or residue there that needs to be shifted out and released and moved, that will happen. And mine were tears. Like, I was letting go of the grief and the betrayal that I had experienced in this past life. And I was just letting all of that go. So I did cry in the first session, but it wasn't to a point where I was unhinged by that. It was actually extremely cathartic for me of all these emotions that I've been holding in all of my life. And through that first session, it was so interesting because my ex-partner, the one that I just broken up with, he had showed up in this past life. Now, again, when we can have karmic relationships that we meet in different lifetimes to play different roles. And you will generally find that if there's people that are very significant to you, if you just have this instant attraction or connection to them in some way, or they feel very familiar to you, then they could have been in a past life with you. And my ex showed up in this past life as my ex-lover, and in this experience he had betrayed me and hurt me, and again, very similar type pattern than what had just happened to me in this lifetime, and hence the breakup. And my friend that I was also having some challenging dynamics with also showed up in this past life, but she was his mother, and we had a very weird, a very interesting relationship in this lifetime where she kind of acted a little bit like my mother and she hated him. So it was the insights that came from that session were not only emotionally healing for me, but it allowed me to understand the dynamics and the karma that were created and why these dynamics were replaying out in different ways with these particular souls in this lifetime. It also really helped me find a new level of understanding and growth and respect for these two relationships in my life. And actually, we have the closest relationships. I actually have extremely close relationship to my ex, and this was like, gosh, we broke up in like 2012, so a very long time ago. And my friend that I'm talking about, we actually then went into business together, and we have the most beautiful soulmate relationship ever. So it was it these sessions can be so transformational, especially if we find the people in our current life showed up in our past lives. So that was like all of this happened in session one, and I was like honestly blown away. And then I obviously continued to book in some more sessions because I was obsessed. And, different sessions had different outcomes, but for me at the start, it was a lot of emotional healing. There was a lot of things that had repressed in this lifetime. I had repressed a lot of my feelings, my emotions. So those were the lifetimes that came up more specifically at the very beginning of my journey to be cleared and healed. So I did a lot of healing on resolved issues with my dad. And it really, again, gave me this bigger level of understanding of who I was at a spiritual level. My amazing connection that I actually had with the soul that was my dad, that again, we had reincarnated in different lifetimes to really teach each other things for our own soul's growth. And it was honestly amazing. Like, I'm even getting a bit emotional about it now because like these sessions can be so therapeutic to help heal any conflict, any resolved issues within your relationships, and give you this deeper understanding of the bigger purpose that these challenges have in our life, and also give us some extreme healing and insights to how we can navigate those in the most profound way. Because in these sessions, we can connect to the actual souls of the people that are showing up in our lives that are maybe giving us some challenges, and we can speak to them on that level, which is, wow, so empowering. And the information that comes through, again, can really shift the level of understanding, compassion, and communication that you have with these particular relationships in your life. So yeah, I guess at the first part of my journey within me exploring my own past lives, there was a lot of relational healing and there was a lot of emotional healing. I would probably say those were the two key components of the start of my journey. And then as I continued to book in sessions, my sessions then became more around my purpose, more around my spiritual journey, more around my understanding of myself at a deeper level. And we then started to explore life between life sessions, which essentially is a session that you go from your last past life into that stage in between your lifetimes where you are connecting with your guides, when you are doing a bit of a soul understanding of what happened in your lifetime. Did you achieve what you wanted to achieve? Um, Even to the point of picking your family, picking your body, picking the next lessons that you want to learn. I even found out, how crazy is this? I even found out the particular moment that my soul entered my mom's belly in the fetus, and why my soul entered her belly at that particular time. Like, what was the reason for that? And again, all of these things answered so many questions about the dynamics that I had with my family, with my parents, the challenges that I had growing up, and also to help me understand a little bit more about my purpose, my gifts, my what I was really here for. Like, what was the energy that I had brought in from my past life that was unresolved, the things that I never got to achieve that I wanted to achieve as a soul in my last lifetime, that I carried over into this lifetime, and where they were presenting themselves as like challenges or issues in my life. So it really gave me such a higher perspective of who I was and who I was at a spiritual nature. And it was super profound, honestly. And then I continued to do more sessions, and these became more, once I'd done a lot of that kind of initial emotional healing work and the work on my relationships and the challenges that I'd been having with those, it then went to more around my life mission, more around my purpose in this life. And the lifetimes that I experienced within the next few sessions were very empowering. There were lifetimes that I was in my fullest potential. I was living my mission. I was living my purpose. Had activated all of my soul gifts and my talents, and it made sense to why I had the particular interests and gifts that I have now in this lifetime. So there was one that came up, which I was actually a scribe for in like I was in like ancient like Tibet, I think it was, and I was a scribe for like the church or the government. So it was a really amazing job. And then I actually became a monk. And this lifetime was just so full of, I was a spiritual leader and a teacher of so many people. And then even on my death, it was so beautiful, that scene, because I was just surrounded by community, and I was surrounded by love, and I was surrounded by appreciation. And it was honestly so magical. And when we can experience these beautiful lifetimes where we are also meant to do something like that in this lifetime, not only do we get the motivation and the insights that we are looking for, we also activate our soul gifts. So I was able to really activate a lot of my spiritual gifts, a lot of my healing gifts through those sessions, and help to give me clarity and direction into my next steps on really fulfilling my purpose as a spiritual leader in this lifetime. And then, so I obviously did a lot of those, my own sessions, which were again so amazing for me. And then at this time, I was also activating my psychic gifts. I was at psychic school. I'd also started doing training in Reiki as well. I found a Reiki master who took me under their wing and was teaching me Reiki, which was so beautiful and amazing. And then I moved to Australia to launch my old business. So I actually, for those of you that don't know, I came over to Australia from the UK to launch a digital media marketing and technology recruitment company. And I basically was building that business from scratch in a brand new country. So yes, always had that entrepreneurial spirit. So I wasn't doing any of my spiritual work full time. This period of my life was very much about my own healing and my own understanding of myself at a bigger level, and then doing all of the training in pretty much every therapy that helped me. And when I got to Australia, I obviously was building and setting up the business, but I was dedicated to my own spiritual journey because I'd learned so much about myself, and things were starting to make sense to me in a world that kind of didn't make sense initially. So I was dedicated to continuing my training, continuing my healing, and I signed up to do my Reiki masters. I signed up to do my meditation course. I signed up to do my energy healing diploma, which took about 2 years. And through doing those things, I, again, was activating more of my psychic gifts, more of my energy healing gifts. And when I would meet people or do readings for people, I would start to pick up their past lives. And again, I hadn't had any training on past lives. I'd only had my own past life sessions. And it just started to come very naturally to me that I ended up doing swap sessions with the other students that were in my energy healing class that I'd made friends with. I was like, look, these past life things keep coming up. So like, do you want to be my test dummy? You can do a Reiki session on me, and I'm going to do a past life reading on you. And it just all came very organically. And again, it was what I was seeing and what I was feeling and how I was able to shift and heal that person through what was coming up through their past lives. I hadn't seen anyone else do it the way that I was doing it. And I was like, oh, am I making this up? Like, what is going on? Because it feels so real for me. I was seeing everything very clearly, and I knew what to do to make that, to heal what was still present in their current life by going back and shifting something from their past life. But again, I'd never seen any other regression therapist do this particular thing that I did. So I questioned it, of course, because I'm like, maybe this is just my unique thing? I don't know. So I did that for a while, and then I was like, okay, let me go find a past life regression therapy training. And I found one in Melbourne. So I was actually based in Sydney at this point. So I went down to Melbourne. I ended up doing like a big training down in Melbourne to become a past life regression practitioner and therapist. So again, as you can see, guys, I was very dedicated to my spiritual evolution because it really gave me such a sense of who I was and purpose. And it's like I couldn't stop. In a way, I guess I knew this was where I was meant to go. But yeah, it gave me so much of everything that I was just dedicated to my own growth journey. And for those of you that are listening to this, you probably have something very similar. Maybe you're activating your spiritual gifts, maybe you're having these experiences, or maybe you're just so dedicated to your growth and knowing who you are at the deepest level so you can live the most authentic life that you can. Then you will be on your own personal journey in whatever way that is. But this was obviously mine. And so I obviously did my training, and then I guess this is why past lives is such a huge part of the work that I do now, because I have done all of these different trainings, and when I eventually let go of my old business, my old recruitment company after 7.5 years of being highly successful, and made that leap into moving into my spiritual and coaching business full time, I was really kind of working out, okay, how do I put all of these together? How do I create something that is so uniquely me, but has such a variety and really expresses my own soul's gifts? And it was very interesting. It's like I really resisted offering past life regression as a paid service. I had still some blocks around really offering this as a service. And until I shifted those out and took the time to really understand where those came from, then I was able to, one, offer that as a past life regression session. I also now offer future progression life sessions as well, which are very cool. And the past life piece comes up so much within my psychic energy healing and just my psychic readings. So a lot of the time that when we are meant to go into our purpose, we will have past life blocks that are stopping us, especially for all of those spiritual entrepreneurs out there, for those people that know they're meant to do something here in this world that has meaning, that is a soul-led business, that again is a spiritual or a healing business. For many of us, we have been persecuted in many past lives for sharing our gifts, for speaking our truth, for living an authentic life. And that might stop us from truly moving in and scaling and building the business the way that we want to. And this is something that, again, I'm very passionate about helping others to move through. If you are looking to understand and navigate yourself, your relationships, and understand what your purpose is at a deeper level, especially if it's a spiritually led business, then the things that might be blocking you may be coming from your past lives. And because I've done so much work in this area, it's again something that I'm so passionate about working with my clients on. And yeah, this is kind of why I do what I do. So yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit about past lives because I'm so passionate about it. And if you have been experiencing anything you think it might be a past life, if you maybe have some issues around your relationships, or you want to activate your soul purpose, you want to activate your gifts and talents, maybe you've got some fear, you've got some anxiety, you're having some health issues, and you want to get to the root cause of it, and it doesn't seem to be coming from any of the things that you've explored in this lifetime, be that medical or other therapies, then past lives could be the reason that you're experiencing these. So if you're interested in exploring that, then obviously all of my details are in the description below. And yeah, it is honestly so fascinating what comes up. And if you are interested in experiencing this, then I cannot wait to take you on this beautiful therapeutic journey. It is honestly life-changing. And yeah, I am so blessed to be able to support people through such a profound growth and healing journey. So, guys, that is me. And again, thank you so much for listening and so much for tuning into this podcast. I appreciate it so, 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 so much. And just know that you are loved. You belong here, even if sometimes you feel that you don't. And I will see you all in the next episode.